ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಇರುವ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಹೇಗಿದೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರೇಷನ್ ತಗೊಂಡು and particularly since the Davangere University is under lock and key till 21st, I mean it's not under lock and key, it's Davangere district is actually under lock. Davangere ಜಿಲ್ಲೆ ಲಾಕ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಾವು ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗದೆ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ this classes may continue till 21st, 21ನೇ ತಾರೀಕು ತನಕ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಆಗುವ ಸಾಧ್ಯತೆಗಳಿದೆ. So let us actually see. First and foremost, I have to post this link. A link I have to post in that WhatsApp thing. So just give me some time. Then the class 7. So that is basically the thing, and yeah, fine. So it is actually posted in the group. So it is actually posted in the group, and let us see what is happening. And so we are officially beginning the class, more or less. And in YouTube, none of them are there. Great. So here, what is basically happening is we will actually start the class. Yeah, in YouTube, some people joined. The people who have joined in YouTube, good evening. And the people who have joined in Zoom also, good evening, those people. Now let us actually continue and resume share. And here we have slideshow from current slide. So from current slide, market objectives, exchange rate control ಆಗಿತ್ತು, theory, spend parity theory, purchasing power. Let's actually start with purchasing power parity theory. We will actually start with monetary approach ಆಗಿತ್ತು. So monetary approach was actually happened. Monetary approach ಆಗಿತ್ತು, ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ let us actually see. Monetary approach ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಆಗಿತ್ತು. Anyway, these two questions I don't think we have solved. So let us continue with this thing, and here let us see what is happening here. Daily screen, black screen, participants fine, and next is let us actually see. So screen, pointer options, pen, yeah. So we will actually start with purchasing power parity theory. Purchasing power parity theory ಆಗಿತ್ತು, ಯಾವ್ದಾಗಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, monetary approach ಆಗಿತ್ತು, what we have not actually done. Yeah, people have joined, more people have joined in YouTube, good evening. So here the thing is, ಯಾವ್ದಾಗಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ actually.
Portfolio.
We are doing portfolio approach.
Balance approach.
Yeah. So portfolio approach, that was the thing which we were actually doing. So let us start with portfolio approach. Portfolio approach, and here I am searching my pen. Just a second. Yeah, I got my pen. Now let us actually see pointer options, pen, ink color. Ink color, let's have black. So let us start portfolio approach. So portfolio approach, and after portfolio approach, we will see tariff, quotas, and what Kindleberger has to tell regarding all these things. So portfolio approach for exchange rate determination. Exchange rate na portfolio approach ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಗೆ determination ಮಾಡೋದು, ಹಾಗೆ determine ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು we are going to see here. And so it is going to be an interesting thing actually. See, portfolio, when we are actually speaking about portfolio, ಸಚಿನ್ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ನಾವು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿರೋದು?
ಸರ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಸರ್.
ಸಚಿನ್ ಅವರೇ, ಅಕಸ್ಮಾತ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅಕಸ್ಮಾತ್ ನಾವ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಬರಿತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಇಂಟರಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ.
ಆಯ್ತು ಸರ್, ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಸರ್.
Okay. And the same applies for Raghavendra, the same applies for Vasavi and all the other great people who are actually listening to this thing. So here,
okay, sir.
Yeah. And let us continue with this portfolio approach. Portfolio approach ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಚಾಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೋ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ, 1 second. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Yeah, everyone who wished good evening, good evening. And for the people who did not wish also, good evening. So let us actually see. Portfolio approach for exchange rate determination. Portfolio, first and foremost, we have to understand what is portfolio. And the people who have joined us just now, fortunately or unfortunately, our classes is not going to end on 13th or 14th, it is going to go till 20th. So after international economics, maybe we will start another module. International admale innond module shuru ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. So that is another thing which I wanted to tell. Let's actually see what is portfolio. Portfolio ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಂತ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. See, when we are actually speaking about the portfolio or something, portfolio ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, and when we are actually speaking regarding portfolio or something, it is actually used in which context? ಯಾವ context ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, it is basically used in the context of investment. Investment context only, we actually use the concept of portfolio. So here, when we are actually speaking about this investment, like investment portfolio, that is what we actually use it as. Investment portfolio means on what are the things you are basically making investment. What are the things you are actually making the investment? That is what it's actually regarded as. It is portfolio basically, mana, it is a collection of financial instruments. It is basically a collection of financial instruments. And these financial instruments, when we are actually speaking about the financial instruments, what are the financial instruments? Financial instruments andre ಯಾವ financial instruments ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ? It can be stocks ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, it can be bonds, and it can be even it can be commodities also. Maybe you want to purchase gold, and when the price of gold increases, you want to sell it at a higher price or something like that. So it is not only related or restricted to stocks and bonds, even it can extend to commodities as well. Anything and everything which you are planning on speculating on. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ದುಡ್ಡಲ್ಲಿ ಖರೀದಿ ಮಾಡೋದು, ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ದುಡ್ಡಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾರೋದು. And any product it can be for that matter. ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಪದಾರ್ಥ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಕಮ್ಮಿ ದುಡ್ಡಿಗೆ ಖರೀದಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ದುಡ್ಡಿಗೆ ಮಾರಬೇಕು. You are planning to purchase it, speculate. You are planning to purchase it at a lower price and sell it at a higher price. That is what is actually called as portfolio. But as far as our theory is concerned, we are going to restrict ourselves only for stocks and bonds. Siddhantakkoskara, we are going to just restrict our analysis for stocks and bonds. So here, why do the people actually invest in stocks or shares or bonds? Stocks, shares, or bonds only people yake invest ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ? See, the reason why people invest is there are actually two reasons why people are actually investing here. People are investing here because of two reasons. Now, what are the two reasons? Where is my result? So here, see, people are investing in this portfolio or the shares and bonds basically because of two reasons. Okay, one is they are going to get some returns, periodic returns, and the second thing is they can actually speculate. ಎರಡು ಕಾರಣದಿಂದ ಇದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅಂಡ್ ಏನ್ ಎರಡು ಕಾರಣ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಒಂದು, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕತ್ತೆ, ಇದರಿಂದ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ಸ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕತ್ತೆ. One is you will get returns. Returns is actually in the form of interest. And the second thing is they can speculate. So there are, when you are purchasing a share, there are two things you are going to take into consideration. One is what is the price of the share, and the second thing is what are the returns you can expect from share. So if the price of share is 1,000 and returns is say 2%, so it is 2% money, 2% returns you are actually expecting. So 2% returns on what? 2% returns on the profit which is made by the company whose share you have purchased. ಯಾವ ಕಂಪನಿ ಶೇರ್ ನೀವು ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದಿರಾ ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ, ಈಗ ಆ ಕಂಪನಿ ₹100 ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ₹2 ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಕಂಪನಿ ₹1,000 ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ₹200 ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ. If the company makes a profit of ₹10,000, 2% of 10,000. So 2% of 10,000 is you will get ₹200. So if a profit of 100, you will get ₹2. Profit of 1,000, you will get ₹20. Profit of 10,000, you will get ₹200. So this 2% returns is actually made on the profit of the company. And if the company makes loss, nothing. You will get nothing actually. This is one thing. And the second thing is the company was a startup and it became unicorn. Unicorn andrano, it is going to make a turnover of more than 1 crore. So here, if a startup became unicorn, so what will happen to the price of the share? Nima share in a bele ₹1,000 ididu, it can become ₹5,000. So you can sell the share and you can make profit like that. So there are two ways of making profit in a share. One is you can expect to make profit via returns, returns bartade adra mele, or you can sell it at the face value. Face value alli sell ಮಾಡಿ ನೀವು profit you can actually get it. So that is the two reasons why people actually invest in these shares, bonds and debentures. shares, bonds and debentures ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾಕೆ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, that this is basically the reason. Now, okay, we understood why these people are actually making this investment. Now, the second thing is, what is this portfolio management actually trying to tell? Like a portfolio management, see, we saw the monetary approach.
ಸರ್
Monetary
ವಾಯ್ಸ್
approach.
ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ.
ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆಯಾ? ಈಗ ಕ್ಲಾರಿಟಿ ಇದೆಯಾ?
ಸರ್ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಆಗ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ನಮ್ಗೆ
ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಆಗ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ವಾ?
ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್.
ಓಕೆ ಓಕೆ, ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಕಸ್ಮಾತ್ ಯಾರಿಗಾರು ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುದ್ರು ನೀವು ಇದ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಯಾರು ಈಗ ತಾನೇ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂದ್ರು, ಈಗ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತದ್ಯಾ?
ಸರ್ ಈಗ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಿದೆ ಸರ್. ಇಷ್ಟ ಮಟ್ಟ ಏನೋ ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ನಿಮ್ದು.
ಏನ್ ವಾಯ್ಸೇ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ವಾ?
ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಫುಲ್ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು ಸರ್ ವಾಯ್ಸ್.
ಸಚಿನ್ ಅವರ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ ನಾವು ಮಾತಾಡೋದು ಏನು ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಲಿಲ್ವಾ?
ಸರ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಗಿ ಕೇಳ್ತು ಸರ್, ಏನು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ.
ಓಕೆ, ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ದ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಹೂ ಸ್ಪೀಕಿಂಗ್ ವಿತ್ ಮೀ, ವಾಟ್ಸ್ ದ ನೇಮ್?
ದಿವ್ಯಾ ಸರ್.
ದಿವ್ಯಾ ಅವ್ರೆ, ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಅಕಸ್ಮಾತ್ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕ್ಲೀನ್ ಆಗಿ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ನೀವು ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬಹುದು. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವಾಟ್ಸ್ಆಪ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ನೀವು,
ಸರ್ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ.
ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇಟ್. ಅಕಸ್ಮಾತ್ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಇಫ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎನಿ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ವಿತ್ ದಿಸ್ ಥಿಂಗ್.
ಸರಿ.
ಒಂದೊಂದ್ಸಲ ನೆಟ್ವರ್ಕ್ ಇಶ್ಯೂ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಆದ್ರೆ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೆಟ್ವರ್ಕ್ ಇಶ್ಯೂ ಆಗಲ್ಲ.
ಸರಿ.
ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಥಿಂಗ್. ಇಫ್ ಎನಿವನ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎನಿ ಇಶ್ಯೂಸ್, ಡೋಂಟ್ ಹೆಸಿಟೇಟ್. ಯಾರಿಗಾರು ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇಶ್ಯೂ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಹೆಸಿಟೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಡಿ. ಒಂದೊಂದ್ಸಲ ಒಬ್ರೊಬ್ರಿಗೆ ನೆಟ್ವರ್ಕ್ ಸರಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಬ್ರೊಬ್ರಿಗೆ ನೆಟ್ವರ್ಕ್ ಸರಿ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ವಿ ವಿಲ್ ಸಾರ್ಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಔಟ್, ಬಟ್ ಫೀಲ್ ಫ್ರೀ ಟು ಸ್ಪೀಕ್. ಮಾತಾಡೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಏನೋ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಅಂಜಿಕೆ ಬೇಡ. ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸ್ಪೀಕ್ ಔಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ಯು ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಸ್ಪೀಕ್ ಔಟ್. ವಿ ಆರ್ ಹಿಯರ್ ಟು ಲಿಸನ್. At least I'm here to listen. We are all here to listen. So that is basically a thing. So yeah, I was actually telling, ಈಗ ನಾವ್ ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, we were actually speaking about shares ನ ಯಾಕೆ ಖರೀದಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ we were actually speaking why people actually buy shares. People ಯಾಕೆ ಶೇರ್ ನ ಬೈ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಎರಡು ರೀಸನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದು, ರಿಟರ್ನ್ಸ್. ಈಗ ಕಂಪನಿ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಲಾಭ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ 2%, 5% ಆ ಶೇರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅದು ರಿಟರ್ನ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಕಂಪನಿ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಲಾಭದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ದಲ್ಲ, ಐ ನಾಟ್ ಸ್ಪೀಕಿಂಗ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್. ಇಫ್ ಯುವರ್ ಕಂಪನೀಸ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸಸ್ ಇನ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೇಲ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್, ಯುವರ್ ಕಂಪನೀಸ್ ಪ್ರೆಸ್ಟೀಜ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸಸ್, ದೆನ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ದ ಫೇಸ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಆಫ್ ಯುವರ್ ಶೇರ್. 1,000 ರೂಪಾಯಿಗೆ ನೀವು ಶೇರ್ ಖರೀದಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದು 5,000 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು. ಅದು 5,000 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾರಿ 4,000 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಲಾಭ ಪಡಿಬಹುದು. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ದಿ ಟೂ ಮೈನ್ ರೀಸನ್ಸ್. ನೌ ಸಿ, ಪರ್ಚೇಸಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಮಾನಿಟರಿ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ಏನಾಗಿತ್ತು? ಮಾನಿಟರಿ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಡಿಪೆಂಡೆಡ್ ಆನ್ ಪರ್ಚೇಸಿಂಗ್ ಪವರ್ ಪ್ಯಾರಿಟಿ ಥಿಯರಿ. ಅಂಡ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇದೇನಿದೆ, ದಿಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಕಾಲ್ portfolio approach is actually dependent on this thing, monetary approach. Portfolio approach yadra mele depend agide, adu monetary approach mele depend agide. So hopefully everyone remember what monetary approach is. Monetary approach eno ellargu nenpide anta ankoltivi. So let us see what this portfolio approach is about. Now see, what is happening is, there are two countries. Assume there are two countries. You have country A, then you have country B. ಎರಡು ದೇಶ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಕಂಟ್ರಿ ಎ, ಕಂಟ್ರಿ ಬಿ, ಅಂಡ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಯು, ಅಂಡ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಸಮ್ ಶೇರ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಸಮ್ ಮನಿ ಅಂಡ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ದುಡ್ಡಿದೆ, ನೀವು ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ. ಈಗ ಸಿ, ನೌ ಹಿಯರ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಬೇಸಿಕಲಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಹಿಯರ್ ಇಸ್, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ನೀವು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಸಿ, ಐ ಟೋಲ್ಡ್ ಯು ದಿಸ್ ಪೋರ್ಟ್ಫೋಲಿಯೋ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ಥಿಯರಿ ಏನಿದೆ, ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಡಿಪೆಂಡೆಂಟ್ ಆನ್ ಮಾನಿಟರಿ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್. And monetary approach, ಅದು purchasing power parity theory, ಅದು ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ ಈಗ ಸದ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ. So portfolio approach is dependent on monetary approach. Now what is happening here? Now monetary approach, in monetary approach the main player was your RBI. Monetary approach ali the main player was your RBI, and portfolio approach is depending on RBI for making decisions. Now here what is happening is, now just think, okay, here now suppose we are making investment in stocks, we are making investment in shares, we are making investment in debentures, all these things we are actually making investment. Okay, ಈಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, suppose the interest rate, for whatever reason, so here what is basically happening is, when we are actually speaking about the interest rate, increases. Interest rate ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Interest rate ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. So interest rate basically means like in interest rate or rate of returns can be analyzed in two dimensions. One is what do you call, basically speaking, when we are actually speaking about these corporates and all, corporates ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ business studies ಅಲ್ಲಿ there is or even in economics there is actually this thing. What they actually tell is a wise businessman is one who not plays with his money but plays with others' money ಅಂತ. ಒಬ್ಬ ಬುದ್ಧಿವಂತ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ಮನ್ ಯಾರು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವನ ದುಡ್ಡಲ್ಲಿ ಗೇಮ್ ಆಡಲ್ಲ. ಅವನು he will actually play the game with the help of others' money in this context is the bank's money. Others' money ಈ context ಅಲ್ಲಿ others' money ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ bank money. So here when we are actually speaking about this, there are some variables you basically have to understand. Variables you basically have to understand. So what does this approach basically tell? This approach, it actually says that increase in supply of money by home country. Increase in supply of money by home country. So this is, let's take this as India and let us take this as America. ಈಗ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಮನಿ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಯಾಕೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಯ್ತು? ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಅವ್ರು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆದ್ರೆ ಮನಿ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇದು ಮಾನಿಟರಿ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದೀವಿ ನಾವು. So here, if money supply increases and if RBI is just printing money, it will also result in fall in interest rate. See, interest rate falls, it will result in increase in money supply. If money supply increases, even that also results in fall in interest rate. Now, suppose RBI is printing notes or something, whatever the thing is. So if money supply increases, the interest rate will definitely fall. Interest rate ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, it will fall, and it is applicable for all the commodities as well as also it is applicable for the shares, bonds, debentures, everything. Money supply, for whatever reasons, your RBI, whatever the thing is, money supply ಜಾಸ್ತಿ print ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ notes ನ. Print ಮಾಡ್ತದ್ರೆ, if more money is actually printed, if money supply in economy has increased, then the interest rate will fall. So if interest rate is going to fall on all your portfolio. Portfolio ಅಂದ್ರೇನು, ಶೇರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಬಾಂಡ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಡಿಬೆಂಚರ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು. ಅದರಿಂದ ಬರೋ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ಸ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ರಿಟರ್ನ್ಸ್ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ನಾವು ರಿಟರ್ನ್ಸ್ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆದ್ರೆ ವಾಟ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಡೂ, ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಸಮ್ ಮನಿ, ನನ್ನ ಹತ್ರ ಏನಿದೆ, ನನ್ನ ಹತ್ರ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ದುಡ್ಡಿದೆ. ಈ ದುಡ್ಡನ್ನ ಐ ವುಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಟು ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ಮೈ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ. ಈ ದುಡ್ಡನ್ನ ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಮೇಕ್ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇನ್ ಮೈ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಮೈ ಕಂಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ, ಮನಿ ಸಪ್ಲೈನ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ, ಮನಿ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಬಿದ್ದಿದೆ. ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಬಿದ್ದಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನನ್ನ ಕಂಪನಿಗಳು, ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ಐ ಬೈ 1000 ರೂಪೀಸ್ ಒಂದು ಶೇರ್ ಖರೀದಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದರಿಂದ ಬರೋ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಎಷ್ಟು? ಈಗ 3% ಇತ್ತು, ಈಗ ಬರೀ 1% ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ ನನಗೆ. ಐ ಆಮ್ ನಾಟ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟೆಡ್. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಡೂ, ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮೈ ಮನಿ ಇನ್ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ, in the companies of foreign country. Like in America, I want to invest. Suppose I want to invest in what do you call, Microsoft ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಐ ಆಮ್ ನೋ ಲಾಂಗರ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಇನ್ ಇನ್ಫೋಸಿಸ್. ಇನ್ಫೋಸಿಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ನಂಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಾನೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಆ ದುಡ್ಡನ್ನ ತಗೊಂಡೋಗಿ ನಾನು ಮೈಕ್ರೋಸಾಫ್ಟ್ ಕಂಪನಿಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಸೊ ಹಿಯರ್ ಇಫ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಕೇಸ್, ದೆನ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡಿಂಗ್ ವಾಟ್? ಐ ಆಮ್ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಡಾಲರ್. ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮೈ 1000 ರೂಪೀಸ್. 1000 ರೂಪೀಸ್ ನ ನಾನು RBI ಹತ್ರ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಆ 1000 ರೂಪೀಸ್ ಬದಲು, ಇನ್ಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಆಫ್ 1000 ರೂಪೀಸ್, I will actually end up getting $1. $1, suppose, just for our explanation's sake, let's take $1 equals 100 rupees. So I want to invest in Microsoft. So I will get $10. So what is happening? I am creating demand for dollar. Dollar ge demand ನಾನು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀನಿ. ರುಪಿಗೆ ನನ್ನ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ? ರುಪಿಗೆ ನನ್ನ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. So dollars demand for dollars is increasing, and demand for rupee is actually falling down. ನಿಮ್ಮ ರುಪಿಯ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಡಾಲರ್ ಇನ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. So what does it actually mean? It means that your country's currency is actually depreciating. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕಂಟ್ರಿಯ ಕರೆನ್ಸಿಗೆ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಡಿಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. Suppose your money supply decreases. ನಿಮ್ಮ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಯ್ತು ಈಗ ಮನಿ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಯ್ತು. If money supply decreases for whatever reasons, it can happen for whatever reasons, like demonetization ಆಗ್ಬೋದು, ಇಲ್ಲ they started banning the currencies ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, or maybe they started whatever. If that is the case, then what will happen? Opposite will happen. If money supply increases, that is the case, and suppose if money supply decreases, money supply ಅಕಸ್ಮಾತ್ ಡಿಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಶೇರ್ಸ್, ಬಾಂಡ್ಸ್, ಡಿಬೆಂಚರ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ರಿಟರ್ನ್ಸ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Even if you have invested some $10 in America, you want to return that $10. You want to sell out that, return that $10 and convert the dollar into rupee and again invest the same in India. ಆ ಡಾಲರ್ ನ ರುಪಿ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಇಂಡಿಯಾಗೆ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂತ ಹೋಗ್ತೀರಾ. Then what will happen? Your currency's value will appreciate. So this is the theoretical aspect of it. And we have some equation. I will even discuss the equation. ಇದು ಥಿಯರಿಟಿಕಲ್ ಆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್. ಈಗ ಈಕ್ವೇಷನ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಈಕ್ವೇಷನ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ. ಸೊ ಲಾಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟೋರಿ ಶಾರ್ಟ್, ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಪೋರ್ಟ್ಫೋಲಿಯೋ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್? ಪೋರ್ಟ್ಫೋಲಿಯೋ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? ಹಿಯರ್ ವಾಟ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಲ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಪೋರ್ಟ್ಫೋಲಿಯೋ. ಪೋರ್ಟ್ಫೋಲಿಯೋ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು. ಇಟ್ ರಿಫರ್ಸ್ ಟು ಆಲ್ ದಿ ಫೈನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೂಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ವಿತ್ ವಿಚ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ವಿಚ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್. ಯಾವ್ದ್ರಿಂದ ನೀವು ರಿಟರ್ನ್ಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಮತ್ತೆ ಯಾವ್ದ್ರಿಂದ ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಅದನ್ನ ನೀವೇನಂತ ಕರಿತೀರಾ? ಪೋರ್ಟ್ಫೋಲಿಯೋ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀರಿ. ಪೋರ್ಟ್ಫೋಲಿಯೋ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ? ಮನಿ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆದ್ರೆ, if money supply actually increases, it basically means that the interest rate on your portfolio will fall. What will you do? You will do invest in foreign countries. Investment ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? ಫಾರಿನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ. ಅದರಿಂದ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕರೆನ್ಸಿ, ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಕರೆನ್ಸಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಡಿಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. If money supply decreases, then what will happen? The interest rate will increase. Then what will you do? You will do investment in domestic country. Investment ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಕಂಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ. If you are making investment in domestic country, what will happen to the domestic currency? The domestic currency will appreciate. Domestic currency ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? Domestic currency appreciate ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. That is what we basically have to understand. This is the thing which we are supposed to understand, and this is what is the portfolio approach, the theory of it. Portfolio approach, the theory ಏನಿದೆ, portfolio approach theory is basically this. Now, what other question you can expect? One is you can expect questions on the theory, and the other thing is you can expect the question based on the equation. Equation ಮೇಲೆ ನೀವು question expect ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. So let us actually go through the equation as well. So here, see, according to this theory, when we are actually speaking wealth, this is actually wealth, okay? Wealth is quantity of nominal money. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇದು ವೆಲ್ತ್. ನಿಮ್ಮ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ವೆಲ್ತ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ ಅಂತ. The wealth basically in your country, it is actually M plus D plus this is your rate of foreign exchange. We are trying to find out this. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ equation find out ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ try ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. So here M is the quantity of nominal money balances demanded by domestic residences. So domestic residences, what is the demand of rupee they are making? That is represented by this M. And D is actually the domestic bonds. This is actually the demand for domestic bonds, which we basically have to understand. And RF is actually the demand for foreign bonds. ಇದೇನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಇದು foreign bonds demand. This is actually the demand for foreign bonds. So the wealth for your country at any point of time is how much cash your individual people will be having. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಜನದ ಹತ್ರ ಎಷ್ಟು ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಅವ್ರ ಹತ್ರ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬಾಂಡ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ಸ್, ಇದು ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಬಾಂಡ್ಸ್, ಎಷ್ಟು ಇಂಡಿಯಾದ ಬಾಂಡ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಫಾರಿನ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ಸ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದಿ the wealth of your country according to portfolio approach. Portfolio approach ಪ್ರಕಾರ wealth of your country is this. Now see, I told earlier, ನಾನು ಏನ್ ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, this is what is actually going to determine your foreign exchange. Why it is going to determine your foreign exchange? Because this is going to determine how much dollar you are going to demand. So if RF is increasing, RF increase ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಕರೆನ್ಸಿ ಡಿಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. RF ಡಿಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಕರೆನ್ಸಿ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ? ಅಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. So that is the relationship between your demand for foreign exchange and the appreciation or depreciation of your currency. So here there are some equations. This is a very easy equation. Demand for foreign bonds. Demand for foreign bonds andre ಏನು? W minus M minus D. So this is very easy. RF equals M minus D. ಇದೆರಡು ಆ ಸೈಡ್ ಹೋಗಿದೆ, M minus D ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Now here what we basically have to understand is when we are speaking about M ಅಂದ್ರೇನು? The rupee demand. So when we are actually speaking about the rupee demand, this A, B, C are basically the coefficients, okay? A ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, B ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, C ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಇದೆಲ್ಲ coefficients ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Now there are two things which are actually determining it. One is the interest rate in your house, in your country, and the other thing is the interest rate which is there actually in the foreign country. ನಿಮ್ಮ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿರುವ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಆರ್. ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರಿಲಿ ಇರೋ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಆರ್ ಡ್ಯಾಶ್. R is basically the interest rate in your country, and R dash is actually the interest rate which is prevalent in foreign country. ಇದು ಫಾರಿನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರಿಲಿ ಏನು ಬಾಂಡ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಇದೆ ಅದು. So here you basically have to understand, see, M is what? M is the rupee demand. So M, it will be inversely related to R and R dash. Andre rupee demand will be more if both R and R dash are less. Returns ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇದ್ರೆ, if returns are less, then you don't want to buy bonds, so you will be having more money. Interest rate ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ದುಡ್ಡು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ನೀವು ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, ದುಡ್ಡು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಲಿಕ್ವಿಡ್ ಮನಿ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಮೋರ್ ವಿತ್ ಯು. ಬಟ್ ಇಫ್ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಇಂಟರ್ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದ್ರೆ, then what is going to happen? The demand for money will be less because you will be converting the liquid cash into bonds. Foreign bonds ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, domestic bonds ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, you are going to actually convert it. So that is the relationship, and even based on relationship you can expect questions. Relationship basis ಮೇಲೆ ನೀವು question expect ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. So money, that is the demand for liquid cash. Demand for liquid cash ಮತ್ತೆ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್, ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಫಾರಿನ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ರಿಲೇಶನ್ಶಿಪ್ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ ಇನ್ವರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. And this demand for foreign exchange rate, it will be directly related. So it will be directly related to R dash, but it will be indirectly related to R. It will be so it is very easy, okay? Foreign bonds ನಾನು ಯಾವಾಗ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ? ಅಮೆರಿಕಾದು ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರಬೇಕು, ನನ್ನ ದೇಶದ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೈಕ್ರೋಸಾಫ್ಟ್ ಕಂಪನಿದು ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಇನ್ಫೋಸಿಸ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಏನು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇಸ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಪೋರ್ಷನಲ್ ಟು ಫಾರಿನ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಇನ್ವರ್ಸ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಪೋರ್ಷನಲ್ ಟು ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ ವಿ ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಬಿ ನೋಯಿಂಗ್. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇದು ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಫಾರ್ domestic currency, demand for domestic bonds. Demand for domestic bonds, so it will be directly proportional to your domestic interest rate and it will be inversely proportional to your foreign interest rate. It is very easy concept ತುಂಬಾನೇ easy ಇದೆ. Hopefully everyone are following with me. ಯಾರಿಗಾರು ಏನಾದ್ರು ಡೌಟ್ ಇದ್ರೆ you just ask me. So this is how you are going to derive the relationship between the interest rate and the variables of the theory. ಇದು ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಯಾರಿಗಾರು ಏನಾದ್ರು ಡೌಟ್ ಇದ್ರೆ you can just ask me out. So this is one aspect of this, and now we are going to determine the stuff. So till now ಯಾರಿಗೇನು ಡೌಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ. Now let us actually find out what we actually wanted to do is, ನಾವ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, where is the eraser? See, this theory is ending in 2 minutes, okay? ಇನ್ 2 ನಿಮಿಷದಲ್ಲಿ theory ಎಂಡ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಯಾರಿಗಾರು ಏನಾದ್ರು ಡೌಟ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಕೇಳಿ, because you can expect questions on all the aspects I'm actually discussing. People may think, why am I not discussing the questions? There's no point in discussing questions if you don't know what the theory is. Siddhanta ಏನಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು questions ಹೋದ್ರು ಅಲ್ಲ ಏನ್ ಲಾಭ. So here that is basically a thing. And here we are going to finally come to the equation ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ನಾವು. Yeah. So we wanted to discuss RF. So what is RF? RF is nothing but, we saw it, right? W minus B minus T. And now wealth ಹಾಗೆ ಇರಲಿ, and we have seen M is nothing but, this is coefficient, okay? ಈ alpha is just a coefficient. It has nothing to do, ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನು ಸಂಬಂಧ ಇಲ್ಲ. And hopefully everyone knows what coefficient is. Coefficient is just the parameter, like parameters magnitude. Coefficient, it doesn't have, it has its relevance, but for the purpose of equation, it is not that much relevant. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅದರದೇ ಆದ್ರೆ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಇದೆ, ಆದ್ರೆ ಈ ಇಕ್ವೇಶನ್ಗೆ ಅದು ಇದ್ರು ಒಂದ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು. ಕೋಎಫಿಷಿಯಂಟ್ಗೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ದರ್ ಬೇಸಿಕಲಿ. So here one is domestic, and this is I mean it will help us to figure out the values. Obviously the magnitude has its own importance. Now here we know RF has relation, RF ಇದಕ್ಕೆ inversely proportional ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಇದಕ್ಕೆ directly proportional ಇರುತ್ತೆ. So what we are going to do is we have to understand what is the thing, right? So here if I take W out here, ಇಲ್ಲಿ W ನ ನಾನು ಆಚೆ ತೆಗೆದ್ರೆ, so W ones are W minus A minus B, right? So this is going to be my equation, and here the exchange rate formula important. Exchange rate formula will be 1 minus A minus B. See this R and R, it is included in this, okay? The R mathe R, it is taken for granted here. So here, I mean, we know the relationship between RF and R dash, so no need to mention it again. So here it is W by F, right? So this is the exchange rate, and the exchange rate is inversely proportional to your demand for your foreign bond. Inversely proportional ಯಾಕೆ? ಫಾರಿನ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ರುಪಿ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಡಿಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಫಾರಿನ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ರೇಟ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಅಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ರೇಟ್ ನ ಹಾಗೆ ಡಿಟರ್ಮೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ W 1 minus A minus B into 1 by F. So this is how you are going to determine your exchange rate according to portfolio approach. Portfolio approach prakara, this is how you are actually going to determine your exchange rate. ನಿಮ್ಮ exchange rate ನೀವು ಹೇಗೆ ಡಿಟರ್ಮೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಹೇಗೆ ಡಿಟರ್ಮೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ. So this formula is important. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮನಿಗೂನು ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್, ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ಗೆ, ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ರೇಟ್ಗೆ, ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ಗೆ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ರೇಟ್ಗೆ, ಫಾರಿನ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ಗೆ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ರೇಟ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಟ್ಗೆ ಏನ್ ಸಂಬಂಧ ಇದೆ, W ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, D ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, M ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, RF ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, R ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, these are basically things you must be understanding. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. So if anyone has any issues or doubts, you can just ask me now. ಯಾರಿಗಾರು ಏನಾದ್ರು ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇಶ್ಯೂ ಇದ್ರೆ you can just ask me. Okay, someone is asking what is portfolio strategy. See, portfolio strategy, when we are actually speaking about the portfolio strategy, just a second, I'll just erase all link here. ಇನ್ನೇನಾದ್ರು ಡೌಟ್ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಓಕೆ, ಹಿಯರ್ ಕೃತಿಕಾ ಅವ್ರು ಕೇಳ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ಪೋರ್ಟ್ಫೋಲಿಯೋ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಟಜಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಅಂತ. See, any investor, any person who's actually making any sort of investment, the main intention is he wants to increase his profit and he wants to minimize his loss. Profit na ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, loss na minimize ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. And the strategy which he actually uses for achieving the set goals, that is actually called as portfolio strategy. And basically people go for hedging. People actually go for hedging. Hedging basically means diversification of portfolio. Diversification of portfolio basically mane, if you have 100 rupees, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ 100 rupees ಇದ್ರೆ, you want to make investment. Suppose you are making 10 rupees na Infosys ಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ತಾ ಇದೀರಾ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು 20 rupees na Microsoft ಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ತಾ ಇದೀರಾ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು 30 rupees na Apple ಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ತಾ ಇದೀರಾ, 30, ಇದೊಂದು 50, 60, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು 40 rupees na Gold ಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ತಾ ಇದೀರಾ. This is what you call as hedging of portfolio. Portfolio hedging ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, you are investing in, you are diversifying your portfolio, so you are minimizing your risk. Infosys ಫ್ಲಾಪ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು, ಮೈಕ್ರೋಸಾಫ್ಟ್ ಮೇಲ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಆಪಲ್ ಮೇಲ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಗೋಲ್ಡ್ ಮೇಲ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಗೋಲ್ಡ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸಿಂಗ್. ಸೊ diversification of portfolio reduces the risk. Portfolio strategy basically refers to any strategy which you can implement in order to increase your profits and minimize your losses. hedging is one of the portfolio strategy. Hedging is one of the portfolio strategies in which you diversify your investment which you are making in your portfolio. So hopefully that is clear. Adu clear anta ankoltivi. But basically the thing is, I will just wind up this theory in 1 minute. One ನಿಮಿಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಥಿಯರಿನ ವೈಂಡ್ ಅಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. So what are the takeaways from this theory? Theory with takeaway ಏನು? One is money supply increases, interest rate falls, and domestic bonds ಏನಿದೆ, domestic bonds ಮೇಲೆ ನೀವು ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, ಫಾರಿನ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕರೆನ್ಸಿ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ, what will happen to your currency value? It will depreciate. Money supply decreases. If money supply decreases, interest rate increases. If interest rate decreases, domestic bonds, you are going to make more investment in domestic bonds. Foreign bonds, investment is less. And what is happening to your rupee value? Your rupee value is appreciating. Okay, this is 1, this is 2. Idu theory ಗೊತ್ತಿರಬೇಕು. ಆಮೇಲೆ the next thing you are basically supposed to understand is the wealth of your country. The wealth of your country is nominal currency balances. Then you have domestic bonds ಎಷ್ಟು ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇದೆ, ಫಾರಿನ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ಸ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇದೆ, ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ದೇಶದ ವೆಲ್ತ್ ಡಿಟರ್ಮೈನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. And how is exchange rate actually determined? Exchange rate is actually determined wealth, and you are taking 1 minus A minus B. A minus B, A and B. A and B ಅಂದ್ರೇನು? A is actually representing the coefficient of money. A is the coefficient of money, and B is actually the coefficient of this. Idru coefficient of domestic bonds. Okay, so this thing, 1 minus A minus B into W multiplied by 1 by F. Okay, F is nothing but the foreign bond demand. So this real exchange rate is wealth minus 1 minus A minus B into inverse of 1 by F. Okay, or it can actually be written as 1 minus A minus B W by F. ಹೇಗೂ ಬರಿಬಹುದು. So this is basically the things you have to understand in portfolio approach. Portfolio approach really, you are supposed to understand this. Okay, what is in portfolio? What is the relationship between risk and return? See, basically speaking, if risk is more in portfolio risk ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದ್ರೆ returns will be high, and if risk is less, the returns will also be less. So Kritika ಅವರು they're asking what is the relationship between risk and return in portfolio. In portfolio, normally speaking, if risk is high, returns are high. If risk is less, returns are less. So that is basically the relationship between risk and return in portfolio, or in any investment for that matter. ಅದು ಒಂದೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವುದೇ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆದ್ರೂ that is basically the relationship. Any other doubts or any other issues which is happening? ಇನ್ನೇನಾದ್ರು ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಏನೇನಾದ್ರು ಇಶ್ಯೂಸ್ ಇದೆಯಾ ಅಲ್ಲಿ? So here let us actually go for a very interesting concept, and we can have lot of questions. We can expect lot of questions here. That is Professor Kindleberger and tariff effect. Tariff effect. Okay, before tariff effect, we have to understand what is tariff. So here let us actually see tariff effect ಗಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ tariff ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಂತ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು. So let us see what is happening. Tariff. Okay, we have to search for tariff. 1 second. Okay, first let me actually get clarity. Sachin ಅವರೇ, ನಾವೇನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಿ ಪೋರ್ಟ್ಫೋಲಿಯೋ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ಥಿಯರಿ ಏನ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಿ, ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ?
ಹಾ ಸರ್, ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತು ಸರ್.
ವಾಸವಿ ಅವರೇ, ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ?
ಎಸ್ ಸರ್, ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತು.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಸುಮ್ನೆ ಕಾಗೆ ಅರ್ಸಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತು?
ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತು.
ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತು ಸರ್.
Okay, so yeah, we are still searching for our tariff. Yeah, tariff ಬಂತು. quotas ಆಮೇಲೆ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. So here tariff. So here when we are actually speaking about tariff ಅಲ್ಲಿ types of tariff ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ನು. tariff ಏನು ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ actually. So first we will do types of tariff. Okay, types of tariff, and there is a great person called as Professor Kindleberg. He has given 8 effects of tariff, for which there is a wonderful diagram. and we have to study that diagram as well. A diagram no ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ, and we have some multiple choice questions related to the diagram as well. Multiple diagram related ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ multiple choice questions ಇದೆ. So we are going to see all those things. ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ. So let's actually see what is happening there. And here, just a second here. Tariff, right? Your internet connection is unstable. Okay, now let us actually see what is this tariff. See, when we are actually speaking about the tariff ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ we are speaking about trade. ನಾವು ಏನ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ? ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ it is buying and selling. We are speaking about trade, right? So obviously this great person is Donald Trump. Now, when we are actually speaking about trade is to do with buying and selling of goods. Trade, you are buying and selling. And we are speaking about international trade. So international trade, buying and selling is regarded as exports and imports. So if you do more exports, you will expect to get more money. Export ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಅದರಿಂದ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ದೇಶಕ್ಕೆ ಒಳ್ಳೇದಾಗುತ್ತೆ. Your country is going to benefit. If you do more exports, your country is going to get more income to the country. Income is going to come to the country. If you are doing more imports, it means that you are losing income. Money is going out of your country. Import ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ? ನಿಮ್ಮ ದೇಶದಿಂದ ದುಡ್ಡು ಆಚೆ ಹೋಗ್ತದೆ. Money is going outside your country, which is not good. You always want the money to come into your country. ನಿಮಗೆ ದುಡ್ಡು ದೇಶದ ಒಳಗೆ ಬರಬೇಕು. ದುಡ್ಡು ದೇಶದ ಆಚೆ ಹೋಗೋದು. ಆಚೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ, I mean, it's not something good or something like that. I mean, that is the rationale behind implementation of tariff. So what is this tariff? What does it actually do? Suppose I have a pen. And I will just take this thing. Okay, let us have a blank screen and let us change the color also, or I can go for black screen. So here, let us have a pen. In India is there, and you have America. And India, we have Parker pen. We have a Parker pen. So the Parker pen in India is actually costing, say, 100 rupees. And in USA, there is another pen which is almost similar to Parker, and its cost is 80 rupees. Iga, ee pen India ge bandre. If this pen actually comes to India, then Indian people obviously want to buy Parker, and they will not buy your American pen. Let's call American pen as Smith. American pen as Smith anta kariyona, Indian pen na Parker anta kariyona. So if India is importing American pen, Indians would not like to buy Indian pen. Indians would like to buy American pen. If Indians are not buying Indian pen, Indian factory will ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಸೇಲ್ಸ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಸೇಲ್ಸ್ ಆಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರಿ ಶಟ್ ಡೌನ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಗೋ ಡೌನ್. ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಗೋ ಡೌನ್. ಸೊ ಟು ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ದಿಸ್, ಇದನ್ನ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ನಾವು? We have actually become member of World Trade Organization. We are member of World Trade Organization. So we cannot tell US, we cannot ban import of American pen. American pen na import ಮಾಡೋದನ್ನ ಬ್ಯಾನ್ ಮಾಡೋಕೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. So what India can do is India can impose tariff. What is tariff? Tariff is nothing but tax on import. It is basically the tax on import. So how much tariff I will put here? I will put tariff of say 40%. 40% on tariff hakidre, so it will be, so 40% of 80. So 40% of 80 is how much? And this is 32. So it is 40% of 80 is 32. So 80 plus 32 is 112. Now America's pen, by the time America's pen entered India ge enter ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ American pen ಬೆಲೆ ಎಷ್ಟಾಯ್ತು ಈಗ? 112 ಆಯ್ತು. So people now in the scenario 2, after the implementation of tariff implementation ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ Indian people are not buying Smith pen. Indian people are now buying Parker pen. This is the rationale behind imposing tariff. Tariff na ಯಾಕೆ ಇಂಪೋಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ? Tariff na ಇಂಪೋಸ್ ಮಾಡುವ rationale ಏನಿದೆ? Rationale behind imposing tariff is basically this. Okay, there is one more question which is actually being asked. ಇನ್ನೇನಾದ್ರು question ಇದೆಯಾ? ಚಾಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ಯಾವುದು ಇಲ್ಲ. Okay. In YouTube, there is a question which is actually being asked. I did not see that question before. So here, the question is portfolio approach. It is actually regarding portfolio approach. So portfolio approach, who actually gave portfolio approach theory? Portfolio approach theory na yaar kotru? That is basically the question which is actually asked by Divya Noro. So here, when we are actually speaking about the portfolio approach, it was actually given by James Tobin. I should have mentioned it. I should have mentioned it. Portfolio approach was actually given by James Tobin. Portfolio approach for demand for money was actually given by James Tobin. Portfolio approach of demand for money. Other theories of demand for money. See, portfolio approach is actually used to determine exchange rate. Portfolio approach na exchange rate na determine ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ use ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. But portfolio approach for demand for money was given by James Tobin. Portfolio approach is used for determining exchange rate, but theories of demand for money ಅಲ್ಲಿ portfolio approach ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. Portfolio approach ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರೋದು James Tobin. Hopefully I made myself clear. ನಾನೇನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೀನಿ ಅದು ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀನಿ. Portfolio approach ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು James Tobin. Portfolio approach ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ನ exchange rate determination ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಲಾಗಿದೆ. So that is basically a thing. Let me just erase this. And hopefully everyone understood what is tariff. In another question, nothing is there. So this is actually the basic idea behind tariff. Either tariff idea. So let us see, there are various types of tariff. Let's actually quickly go through the various types of tariff. But more than the types of tariff is also important. But more than that, effects of tariff given by Professor Kindleberger, that is even more important. So this is basically a thing, and let us actually see. See, obviously, if I impose, this is Trump, okay. If Trump imposes tariff on one country or on one trade partner, the other trade partner will also impose tariff on America. Other people also will impose tariff on America. That is what this cartoon is actually trying to tell. If you restrict our imports, even we will restrict your imports. If you tell to the world, ಬರೀ ನಿಮ್ಮಿಂದ ನಮಗೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು, ನಮ್ಮಿಂದ ನಿಮಗೆ ಒಂಚೂರು ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ನಾವು ನಿಮಗೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ ಹೋಗಿ. See, that is what is happening. You cannot expect help from others if you are not willing to help others. So here, if you are not willing to buy from other people, how can you expect others to buy from you? Even others will tell, even we will also not buy from America. That is what this cartoon is actually telling. A cartoon that's what this cartoon is actually telling. Yeah, fine. So hopefully you understood what this cartoon is telling. Now let us see. There are various types of tariff. There's one types of tariff there. And you are supposed to by heart all this. I mean, you should be knowing all this by heart. So let us actually go through it. And let us see what are the types of tariff. First and foremost, revenue tariff, protective tariff. See, revenue tariff, protective tariff alla. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಿಂಡಲ್ಬರ್ಗರ್ದು ಒಂದು ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಇದೆ. ಆ ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ ನ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ದಿಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಇನ್ನೇನು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ? ಓಕೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ರಿಟಾಲಿಯೇಟರಿ, ಕೌಂಟರ್ ವೈಲಿಂಗು, ಮಲ್ಟಿಪಲ್, ಟ್ರಿಪಲ್, ಡಬಲ್ ಕಾಲಮ್, ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಕಾಲಮ್. ಓಕೆ, ರೆವೆನ್ಯೂ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ when I'll explain that ಕಿಂಡಲ್ಬರ್ಗರ್ ಸ್ಟಫ್. ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಅನ್ನು ಅದು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ in effects of tariff, but these things we can actually ad valorem ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು, specific ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು, compound ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು, sliding scale ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು. Now what are these basically? Now when we are actually speaking about ad valorem, see, when we are actually speaking about the ad valorem, it is imposed. It is basically the thing which is actually imposed based on the it is not in terms of absolute quantity. Absolute quantity ಮೇಲೆ ಅದು ಇಂಪೋಸ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದು actually impose ಆಗೋದು, it is like how should I actually put it? It is in terms of kg or in terms of weight, like that. So that is what you call as ad valorem. ಆಮೇಲೆ specific ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು specific is actually imposed based on the number of units you are actually importing. ಎಷ್ಟು units import ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀರಾ ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ, like maybe for 5, if you ಇನ್ ಏರ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ 2 or 3 ವೈನ್ ಬಾಟಲ್ ನೀವು ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ಆದ್ರೆ 12 ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ದಿ ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಯೂನಿಟ್ಸ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಪರ್ಚೇಸಿಂಗ್. ಎಷ್ಟು ಯೂನಿಟ್ಸ್ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀರಾ ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಈ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಈ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಇಂಪೋಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ದ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್. So here ad valorem basically money. So 25% or like 30% of its weight, 25% or 35% of its weight or of its cost. If anything is like 100 rupees andra, we are going to impose 25% on 100 rupees. A pen mel impose madudwala. That is actually what is regarded as this ad valorem. Ad valorem money, it is specific percentage. Ad valorem money, specific percentage of its weight, specific percentage of its cost on that. And this is specific basically means, so per TV, so per number, one for one wine I'm going to impose 100 rupees, or it may be for 100 meters of cloth if I'm actually importing cloth or something. 100 meter cloth ge ನಾನು ಎಷ್ಟು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀನಿ, ಅಥವಾ 200 kg fertilizer, if I'm importing 200 kg fertilizer from some other country, adra mele I'm going to impose tax. So ad valorem is percentage of its value. Specific duty means on a specific number you are actually going to impose it. And compound duty basically mane, it is a combination of ad valorem and specific duty. Ad valorem ಮತ್ತು specific duty ಎರಡನ್ನೂ ಕಂಬೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕಾಂಪೌಂಡ್ ಡ್ಯೂಟಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಲೈಡಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಕೇಲ್. ಸೊ ಸ್ಲೈಡಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಕೇಲ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದೇ ಹೇಳಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ, ಐ ಟಾಕ್ಡ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ವೈನ್, ರೈಟ್? ಇಫ್ ಯು ಬೈ 1 ವೈನ್ ಬಾಟಲ್, ನೋ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್. ಇಫ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಬೈಯಿಂಗ್ 6 ವೈನ್ ಬಾಟಲ್ ಆರ್ ಮೋರ್ ದ್ಯಾನ್ 6, 6ಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ವೈನ್ ಬಾಟಲ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಅಸ್ ಸ್ಲೈಡಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಕೇಲ್. ಮೇ ಬಿ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಇಂಪೋರ್ಟಿಂಗ್ 100 kg ಆಫ್ fertilizer, no tariff. But if you are importing more than 100 kg, tariff is there. That is sliding scale. Sliding scale mane, there will be a benchmark. If you fluctuate more than that, adra mele tax agutte. Compound ಅಂದ್ರೇನು, ad valorem ಮತ್ತೆ specific ಎರಡು ಕಂಬೈನ್ ಅದು. Ad valorem ಅಂದ್ರೇನು, percentage of weight, percentage of cost, percentage of whatever, percentage of freight charge, percentage of insurance, ಎಂದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಆಗಬಹುದು. It's a percentage thing. Specific duty andre on 1 TV athwa 100 meter clothes you are importing, or some 200 kg, it is actually in terms of absolute numbers. So that is basically a thing. Revenue protective, these are all protective tariff only. Idella protective tariff, protective effect and amala I will actually see. And this revenue tariff, if I want to just give you an example, see, revenue tariff are basically imposed on luxury goods. Revenue tariff are basically imposed on luxury goods of consumers, and the major intention is to earn revenue for the government. ಸರ್ಕಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಾಗಬೇಕು, ಇದರಿಂದ ಆದಾಯ ಬರಬೇಕು. That is the main intention. So see, Ferrari car is not bought by ordinary people. It is bought by rich people. Ferrari car na yaar buy ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ? Rich people buy ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. So these revenue tariff normally they impose on some costly items, luxury items, which are imported to the country, so that the country's government gets some sort of revenue. ಅದರಿಂದ ದೇಶದ ಸರ್ಕಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಆದಾಯ ಬರಲಿ ಅಂತ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಬೇಸಿಕಲಿ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಯುವರ್ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರೀಸ್. ನೀವು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರೀಸ್ ನ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀರಾ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನು ಇಂಪೋಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ದ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಆನ್ ದಟ್. ಅಂಡ್ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ಆಲ್ ದಿಸ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ಸ್ ಆನ್ KSET or NET, specific statements. We are going to discuss that later in the class. Another class later we are actually going to discuss. So that is basically these things, and let us erase all ink. So here single column tariff, double column tariff. So what is this column tariff? See, this when we are actually speaking about this, okay, irrespective of the country from which you are importing, ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಒಂದು ಪದಾರ್ಥನ you are maybe importing from America, you are importing from Egypt, you are importing from Cuba, everything, ಈ 3 country ಇಂದ ನೀವು ಶುಗರ್ ನ ಇಂಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀರ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. You are actually importing sugar or from all these three countries. You are actually importing sugar from all these three countries. And you will say that for sugar, there is 10% tariff. So if sugar price is 100 rupees, it will be 110. America agli, Egypt agli, Cuba agli, American sugar ge 100 irbodu, 110 ಬೀಳುತ್ತೆ. Egypt sugar 10 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, 10 ರೂಪಾಯಿಗೆ 11 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Cuban sugar ge 200 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, 200 ರೂಪಾಯಿಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲೇನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, it will be 220. So irrespective of the price of the product, based on the product, irrespective of the country, ದೇಶ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ದೇಶದಿಂದ ಇಂಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಲಿ, ಶುಗರ್ ಮೇಲೆ 10% ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. That is what you call as single column tariff. Single column tariff basically means irrespective of the country from which you are importing, you will fix that you are going to impose 10% of tax on that good. It may not be sugar, it may also be automobiles. Automobiles from whichever country we are importing automobiles, for everything 20% tariff. We are not going to discriminate anything. Obviously, the advantages you can easily manage all this. Easy manage ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. That is basically the advantage. Then we have double column tariff. In double column tariff, what basically happens is, see here, there are like two different rates on the same set of commodities. So if automobiles, if the best example is Central American Treaty Organization or something. Cento ಆಗಿತ್ತು. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಮೆರಿಕಾ, ಮೆಕ್ಸಿಕೋ, ಕೆನಡಾ ನಡುವೆ ಒಂದು ಫ್ರೀ ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಅಗ್ರಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಸೆಂಟೋ ಆರ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್, ನಾಫ್ಟಾನೋ ಸೆಂಟೋನೋ, ನಾರ್ತ್ ಅಮೆರಿಕನ್ ಫ್ರೀ ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಅಗ್ರಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್. ಸೊ ನಾಫ್ಟಾಲ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ದ ಕಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ ಹೂ ಆರ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ನಾಫ್ಟಾದು ಯಾರು ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ, if they are importing automobiles, for them maybe 10% tariff. Adre if you are not part of NAFTA, if you are India, which is obviously not part of NAFTA, our India, if trying to export automobiles to this group of countries, it will be 20%. That is your double column tariff. Double column tariff means for a group of countries you are giving preferential treatment, and for the other countries the tariff may be a bit higher. So this type of double column tariff happens when there is differences in ಯಾವಾಗ ಈ ತರ ನಾಫ್ಟಾ ಅಥವಾ ಆಸಿಯಾನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ಗೆ ಬೇರೆ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ರೇಟ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಅದೇ ಪದಾರ್ಥಕ್ಕೆ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಸೇಮ್ ಕಮೋಡಿಟೀಸ್, ಬಟ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ ಅಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಆಸಿಯಾನ್, ದಿ what you call the tariff rate may be different. And multiple money, obviously you are part of ASEAN, you are part of SAARC, and you are also part of India is actually not part of OECD. Adra in future, suppose we actually became part of OECD part ಆದ್ವಿ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡು, ಸೊ ಆಸಿಯಾನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ಗೆ ಫಾರ್ ಆಟೋಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಆಸಿಯಾನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ಗೆ ಬೇರೆ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಸಾರ್ಕ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ಗೆ ಬೇರೆ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, OECD ಕಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ಗೆ ಬೇರೆ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, ಟ್ರಿಪಲ್ ಕಾಲಮ್ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಆಯ್ತು. This is actually the triple column tariff. You are importing automobiles from OECD. For those countries you are imposing one rate of tariff, and you are importing something from ASEAN. For that you are imposing one type of tariff, and you are importing something from SAARC, and for that you are actually imposing one type of tariff. So this is what is actually called as multiple column tariff. Idana enanta karitare multiple column tariff anta. This will actually be considered, and based on all these concepts you can expect questions. ಈ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ you can expect questions. See, retaliatory tariff, if someone is imposing tariff on me, I'm going to impose tariff on them. That is actually what is retaliatory tariff. And this is countervailing duty. There's a very minute difference between retaliatory tariff and countervailing duty. Retaliatory tariff ಮತ್ತೆ countervailing duty ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾನೇ ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಡಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. See here, if I am actually, suppose I have trade relationship, India has trade relationship with China. India, what India did is India increased the tariff on steel. China increases the tariff on Indian cotton, not because it wanted to protect its cotton industries, because India increased the tariff on steel, so China is increasing the tariff on Indian cotton. So it is like for a tit for tat. That is retaliatory tariff. Retaliate because the other person is increasing tax, increasing tariff on one of my product, so I am going to increase tariff on other product. That is retaliatory tariff. Adre counter duty andre, or countervailing duty basically mane. Here, what I am trying to do is, China is providing export subsidy. Steel China is actually providing export subsidy. So actually the cost of production for steel and the cost of export for steel was 100 rupees. ನಿಜ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಟೀಲ್ ನ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ 100 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಆದ್ರೆ ಚೈನಾ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದ, ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಗಿವಿಂಗ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಸಬ್ಸಿಡಿ ಫಾರ್ ಸ್ಟೀಲ್ and it is artificially reducing the international price of China's steel from 100 rupees to 70 rupees. And it is selling in India. It is selling in India at 80 rupees. So I want to ensure that the price of the steel reflects the real international price. ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಏನು ಸಬ್ಸಿಡಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಆರ್ಟಿಫಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆರ್ಟಿಫಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಯಾಕೆ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ? ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ನೋ, ಮೇ ಬಿ ದೇ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಡಂಪ್ ದರ್ ಸ್ಟೀಲ್ ಇನ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ. ಅವ್ರ ಸ್ಟೀಲ್ ನ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಮೇ ಬಿ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಡಂಪ್ ಇಟ್, ಬಟ್ ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ವಾಂಟ್ ದಟ್ ಟು ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್. They have given export subsidy. I want to neutralize the export subsidy. For that, if I am imposing tariff, that is called as countervailing duty. So hopefully you people understood what is the difference between countervailing duty and retaliatory tariff. Retaliatory tariff ಯಾವಾಗ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ? Retaliatory tariff is actually going to be imposed when other country imposed tariff on my commodity. Just for the purpose of retaliation, I am imposing tariff on other commodity. Other countervailing duty is actually imposed with the specific purpose of increasing the prices when the prices have artificially been reduced due to export subsidies. Export subsidies ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಯಾವಾಗ prices ನ artificial ಆಗಿ reduce ಆಗಿದೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಂಟರ್ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಆನ್ ಪಾರ್ ತರಕ್ಕೆ, ಆವಾಗ ನಾವು ಯಾವ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ನ ನಾವು ಇಂಪೋಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವೇನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ? ಕೌಂಟರ್ವೈಲಿಂಗ್ ಡ್ಯೂಟಿ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬೇಸಿಕಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಆನ್ ಆಲ್ ದೀಸ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್. ಅಂಡ್ ದ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್, ಇದ್ರ ಎಲ್ಲಾದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ನೀವು ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ನೀವು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. The most important concept I had to discuss today was effect of tariff. Effect of tariff was the most important and the most interesting, based on which even you can expect lots of multiple choice questions also. So effects of tariff we are going to discuss. Yeah, these are all conceptual things, and even based on this you can expect questions. And hopefully this is very easy to understand. Once you have understood, it is very easy. So hopefully tariff andre enu? Revenue tariff mane, it is imposed normally on luxury goods. Protective tariff is actually for protecting your domestic industry. Ad valorem, percentage, specific, based on specific numbers. Compound, combination of specific and ad valorem. Sliding scale, they will be having a limit. If it crosses the limit, only then tariff is imposed. Single column means same tariff rate for similar commodities, no matter from which country you are importing. Double column, double tariff rate for the similar commodity. Amala multiple or triple, it will be like triple rate for the similar commodity. Automobile na import ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ಅದರ tariff rate ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. Retaliatory, countervailing, you must be knowing the difference. Now let us actually go for the thing, effects of tariff. This is very much important. So effects of tariff, and based on this diagram is also important, and based on this we can expect lots of questions also. Idra basis mele questions now expect ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. And understanding this diagram is bit tricky. One swalpa tricky the diagram understand ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು. But once you are able to understand the diagram, you'll be able to understand this thing very easily. So let us try to understand the effect of tariff. And the person who actually gave this effect of tariff was Professor Kindleberger. So who actually gave this? It was given by Professor Kindleberger. Professor Kindleberger has actually given this. So let us try to understand what this professor is actually telling. And this is an interesting concept, so listen carefully. Hopefully we will finish. After finishing this, then we will discuss multiple choice questions. It mugsad mele multiple choice questions we are going to discuss, but let us try to understand this. So here See, this is very easy to understand. How should I put it? Okay, let me actually explain this. Okay, let me have a blank screen. Okay, let us see this. What is actually happening? And see here, there are some assumptions. Okay, and the most important assumption is the world market ಅಲ್ಲಿ perfectly elastic supply ಇದೆ. In the world market, what is happening? There is perfectly elastic supply. That is the most important thing you basically have to understand in this theory. ಈ ಥಿಯರಿಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಏನೋ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ that is the thing you have to understand. Now let us see. Here you have XOY, right? So here when we basically see, there are some things before I go for the diagram. Elastic ಮತ್ತು inelastic, I'll just try to explain you. See, when we are actually speaking about this elastic and inelastic, ಮತ್ತು inelastic ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, here elastic basically mane we will wait for the prices to reduce. Elastic ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬೆಲೆ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ವೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ರೆಡಿ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ. Inelastic basically means I am not going to wait for the prices to go down. I am actually not going to wait for the prices to go down. That is basically inelastic. Adenanta consider agutta, that is actually considered as inelastic. Now this equilibrium analysis which we are actually trying to do, it is called as partial equilibrium analysis. ಇದನ್ನ ಏನಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ? ಪಾರ್ಷಿಯಲ್ equilibrium analysis ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. Partial equilibrium analysis, that is what it is actually called as. So here there are some assumptions. I will just send the link of it. Either link now ಕಳಿಸ್ತೀವಿ so that you can actually go through that in the assumptions and all. Or anyway, I have to post this PPT. A PPT I will post it later. So basically, let us actually see this diagram. Let us actually see. See, this is the demand for the product. Demand for any product. Now this demand for product means if the price is less, obviously the demand will be more. ಬೆಲೆ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗೇ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. And this is basically the supply. This is actually the supply of the product. And what is happening here? This is the supply. If the price is high, the supply will also be more. ಬೆಲೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದ್ರೆ supply ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗೇ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. And here, this is actually in the world, the supply is perfectly elastic. This is in the world, the supply is perfectly elastic. ಜಗತ್ತಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ? Supply ಏನಿದೆ? Supply perfectly elastic ಇದೆ in the world. So that is what is actually showing by W. Okay. So now see here what is basically happening. Let us try to understand. Now no country is self-sufficient. ಯಾವುದೇ ದೇಶ self-sufficient ಅಂತೂ ಯಾವುದೇ ದೇಶ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ, all of you people will definitely agree with that. Here there are many questions which you can expect. One is like consumer surplus, producer surplus, deadweight loss, distribution effect ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು. Then you have revenue effect. See, there are many types of questions you can basically expect from this. Some 8 to 10 questions you can expect. So let us see. Now what we basically have to understand is, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಏನು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, let's actually start with the first thing. Now here when we are actually seeing this PW is the world supply curve. World supply curve of the commodity. And the pre-tariff price is basically the OP. Okay, I will just draw this diagram properly. And this is going to be very interesting also. It's ತುಂಬಾ interesting ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, and you can expect questions also. So here this is basically the diagram. Okay. And here is actually your demand. So if price reduces, if price of anything reduces, your demand for that thing will obviously increase. ನೀವು ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗೇ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ if your price for something is actually increasing, supply for that will definitely increase. So that is what is actually shown here. And this is the supply curve of the world. World supply curve, it is perfectly elastic. World supply curve ಏನಿದೆ ಅದು perfectly elastic ಆಗಿದೆ. Now, this is the pre-tariff price. ಏನು ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಏನೋ ಹಾಕಿಲ್ಲ ನೀವು, ಇಂಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಯಾವ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕಿಲ್ಲ, pre-tariff price is OP. Now, suppose you actually impose tariff. So here you are actually, what is happening, you are imposing the tariff ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಈಗ ನೀವು ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಅಥವಾ ನೀವು ಇಂಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಡ್ಯೂಟಿ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ what will happen, the price will definitely increase. What will happen, the price will increase. So this is W1, and the price of the product which is coming to your country, that is definitely going to increase. Now here what was happening at this point, e point only, this was actually the production which is happening. The production was happening at this point, e point only is to production ಆಗ್ತದೆ. This is A, okay? Just a second. So here, where is my pen? So this was the domestic production which was basically happening. But ನಾನೀಗ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ, ನಾನು ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಈಗ ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಈಗ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. My production basically what happens, my production will definitely increase. So this is the supply aspect. ಇದೇನು supply ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಇದು. This is actually the supply aspect. But look at the demand. When the price was less, my demand was actually this much. ಬೆಲೆ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ನನ್ನ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿತ್ತು, ನನ್ನ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು OQ1 ಅಷ್ಟು ನನ್ನ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇತ್ತು. My demand was basically like OQ1. ಆದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ಬೆಲೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ನನ್ನ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಬಿದ್ದೇ ಬೀಳುತ್ತೆ. ನನ್ನ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, ಈಗ OQ2 ಆಯ್ತು. My demand actually became OQ2. See, before the taxes was imposed, tax impose ಆಗಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ನನ್ನ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಎಷ್ಟಾಗ್ತಿತ್ತು, my domestic production was, look here, my domestic production, what was my domestic production? My domestic production was only OQ. ನನ್ನ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿತ್ತು, my domestic production was basically OQ. But what was my demand in my country for that product? ನನ್ನ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ವಸ್ತುವಿನ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿತ್ತು, ವಸ್ತುವಿನ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು OQ1. This was the demand. This was the production which was happening, and this was the demand for that product. ಇದು ಆ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ಇನ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು. So how much was I importing? ನಾನು ಎಷ್ಟು ಇಂಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ, import is nothing but the demand minus my domestic production. Demand minus my domestic production. So domestic production is how much? OQ1 minus OQ. So how much I will be importing this time? I was importing QQ1. ನಾನು ಎಷ್ಟು ಇಂಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ, ನಾನು Q1 ಅಷ್ಟು ನಾನು ಇಂಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ. I was importing QQ1. Okay, QQ1 ಅಷ್ಟು ಇಂಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ. I was importing when? I was actually importing when before the tariff. ಗಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ. ಈಗ ನಾನು ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಹಾಕಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಯಾವುದೇ ಪದಾರ್ಥ, ಬೇರೆ ಜಗತ್ತಿನ ಪದಾರ್ಥ ನನ್ನ ದೇಶಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದ್ರೆ, the price of the commodity which is entering to my country. We saw that American pen. Before imposing tariff, it was 80. After imposing tariff, that American pen price became 112. So ಬೆಲೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, ನನ್ನ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ fell down. My demand decreased from OQ1 to OQ2. Now what is my new demand? Now my production, my domestic production is now increasing. ನನ್ನ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಯ್ತು. ಈಗ ನನ್ನ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ OQ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು, it increased to OQ1. So my new domestic production is OQ1. Now new domestic demand, ಹೊಸ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ, ಈಗ new domestic demand has fallen. It has fallen from OQ1 to OQ2. So new domestic demand. This is domestic production. This is production. This is demand. Demand has fallen. Now, what is the new import I'm actually doing? Hosa import ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ನಾವು? Hosa import is, now just look here, what is basically happening? Let us take this pointer options in color. ಈಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ, ಈಗ ನನ್ನ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ? OQ1 ಇದೆ. ನನ್ನ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಎಷ್ಟಾಗಿದೆ? OQ2 ಇದೆ. ಇದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು? ಇದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ನನ್ನ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿತ್ತು? OQ1 ಇತ್ತು. ನನ್ನ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಎಷ್ಟಾಗ್ತಿತ್ತು? ನನ್ನ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ತಿತ್ತು. ಸೊ ಬ್ಲೂ ಇಸ್ ಬಿಫೋರ್ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್. ಇದು ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ. ಸೊ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು? ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಬೇಸಿಕಲಿ ಹ್ಯಾಪನಿಂಗ್ ಹಿಯರ್? ಇನ್ ಕಲರ್ ರೆಡ್. ಸೊ ಟ್ಯಾರಿಫ್ ಹಾಕಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ಬೆಲೆ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗಿದ್ರಿಂದ ನನ್ನ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಕಂಪನೀಸ್ ಉತ್ಪಾದನೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಬೆಲೆ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗಿದ್ರಿಂದ ನನ್ನ ಪೀಪಲ್, ಮೈ ಕಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ ಪೀಪಲ್, ದೇ ವರ್ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಮೋರ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಟ್. ಸೊ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಟು ಇಂಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮೋರ್. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ವಾಸ್ the importing I was actually doing? I was importing QQ1, and since I'm importing more, what is happening? I am losing money. What is happening? I'm actually losing money. I want to import less, and I want to support my domestic industries, for which what I'm supposed to do, I will impose tax. Tariff impose madadmele price enagutte? OP inda OP1 ge price will increase. So price basically increases from OP to OP1. So when the price increases from OP to OP1, what is happening? The domestic production will increase. So what is the new domestic production? That is OQ1. And domestic demand will reduce. So what is the new domestic demand? OQ2. Amala iga, what is the new import I'm supposed to do? The new import I'm supposed to do is the domestic demand minus domestic production. So domestic demand minus domestic production andre, it is OQ2 minus OQ1. So what is the new import I'm actually doing? Hosa import ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀನಿ ಈಗ ನಾನು? OQ2 minus OQ1 andre Q1 Q2. So look at my new import. My new import, ನನ್ನ ಹೊಸ import ಏನಿದೆ? Q1 Q2 is less than my old import. What is my old import? Old import was Q1. Okay. So this is, see, it is a very simple diagram. Artha madkondre tumba simple diagram idu. And based on this, we are going to explain 8 effects. Idra basis mele 8 effects explain ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. And I had seen in NET paper a question based on the diagram actually. A question we are going to discuss in the next class. Yakandre ಇವತ್ತು ಇದು diagram ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. I'm going to discuss some 8-10 questions are there. 8-10 questions of this diagram we are going to discuss tomorrow. Entire MCQ ಇದೆ. Entire MCQ we are going to discuss tomorrow. So here, so by imposing tariff, I am now able to reduce my imports. ನಾನು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀನಿ? ನನ್ನ imports ನಾನು reduce ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀನಿ. So till here, were you people, Sachin, till here were you able to follow?
ಹಾ ಸರ್.
ಏನಾದ್ರು ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗಲೇ ಕೇಳಿ.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ ಸರ್.
ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ? ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಈ ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲನೇಷನ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಐ ಆಮ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಬಿಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ದ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲನೇಷನ್ ನಾವು. ಐ ಆಮ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಬಿಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ದ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲನೇಷನ್. Anyone have any doubts? Please stop and get clarification. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲನೇಷನ್ ಇನ್ನು 20-25 ನಿಮಿಷ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಈ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಬಿಲ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು. We are going to build upon the concepts and we are going to understand the various effects na understand ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ. So if anyone has any doubts now look here. If the price were very high, ಬೆಲೆ ತುಂಬಾನೇ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. If the price was very high, suppose the price was actually P2. In that context, the entire supply would actually be taken care by my own. The entire supply would be taken care by my own this thing. ನನ್ನ ದೇಶದ ಕಂಪನಿಗಳ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಸಪ್ಲೈಯು ಕೇರ್ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವು, and my entire demand would be met by the production of my own country's factory, so I need not import anything. So here at point G I'm not importing anything. G point ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಏನು ಇಂಪೋರ್ಟೇ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ನನ್ನ ಕಂಟ್ರಿಯ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇದೆ ಆ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಎಲ್ಲ ನನ್ನ ದೇಶದ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ರಿನೇ ಫುಲ್ಫಿಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. And since my own country's factory is fulfilling all the demand, there is no point for me to import at all. Right. Then again, the demand drastically reduces also at that point. Now, let us see. Okay, till now, I hope everyone have understood whatever I'm trying to tell. Now, the next thing which we basically try to understand is, let us try to understand the protective effect, substitution effect, protective effect, substitution effect. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ let's try to understand. So let's ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ let us start with consumption effect. Consumption effect ನ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕೆ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡೋಣ. So here when we are actually speaking about the consumption effect ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? By imposing tariff, see, you are supposed to identify ಈ ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್, ಯಾವ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್, ಯಾವ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಇಂಪೋರ್ಟ್, ಯಾವ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್, ಯಾವ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಯಾವ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಇಂಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ನೀವು ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಡೂ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮ್. That is basically what you are actually expected to do this in diagram. So it is like your TPN or TPRP. So that diagram irthala, based on that you will get revenue effect, consumption effect, protective effect, redistribution effect, dead weight loss. See here we are trying to identify these many things. A diagram alli ಏನೇನು ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಲಾಗುತ್ತೆ, one by one we are going to identify. Let's start with consumption effect. ಒಂದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗೋಣ. ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇಂದ ಶುರು ಮಾಡೋಣ. Let us actually start with consumption effect, and before that let's actually erase the board. Okay, in exam what can you expect? Consumption effect ಹೆಂಗಾಯ್ತು, ಯಾವ ರೀಜನ್, ಒಂದೊಂದ್ಸಲ ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಯಾವ ರೀಜನ್ ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್, ಯಾವ ರೀಜನ್ ರೆವೆನ್ಯೂ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್, ಯಾವ ರೀಜನ್ ರೀಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್, ಯಾವ ರೀಜನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡೆಡ್ ವೈಟ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಡೆಡ್ ವೈಟ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು. ಸೊ ಆಲ್ ದೀಸ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್, ರೈಟ್? ಇದೆಲ್ಲದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ನೀವು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. So I'll just erase this and we will start with consumption effect. Idella erase ಮಾಡಿ consumption effect. We will actually start with consumption effect. So let us see point screen. And I had prepared MCQ. ಇವತ್ತು ಒಂದು 12 MCQ prepare ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ, but I could not finish the theory ಮುಗಿಸಕ್ಕಾಗಲಿಲ್ಲ. But tomorrow we will see all those 10-12 MCQs. 10-12 MCQs ನಾಳೆ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ. Okay, let us see consumption effect ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಾಗುತ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ ಅಂತ. So here what is happening is, see, we understood ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವಾಗ we had actually put some tariff, right? The tariff imposed PP1 tariff impose ಮಾಡಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ, PP1 tax impose ಮಾಡಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಪ್ರೈಸ್ OP ಇಂದ OP1 ಗೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಯ್ತು. And when the price actually increased from OP to OP1, the first consumption before taxes were imposed, the consumption was OQ1. After taxes, tax impose ಮಾಡಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಹೊಸ ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, OQ2 ಆಯ್ತು. ಸೊ ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಯ್ತು. ಸೊ ದಿ ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್, now what is the consumption reduced by how much? Consumption reduced by Q1. So the consumption actually reduced by Q1, Q2. ಇಷ್ಟು ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ, ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಎಷ್ಟು ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಈಗ let us see consumer surplus and producer surplus. So consumer surplus, what was the loss of consumer surplus? That is a question you can expect. Consumer surplus ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಲಾಸ್ ಎಷ್ಟಾಯ್ತು ಅಂತ. So here what is happening is, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೈಲೈಟರ್ ಇದೆಯಾ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ where is the highlighter? ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಟೂಲ್ಸ್ ಏನಲ್ಲಿ annotate ಇದೆ, more. Anyway, now here what is basically happening is, just a second, ಇಲ್ಲಿ annotate ಇದೆ. Spot highlight ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. Okay. Now look here. Maybe I'll take this color. Now look here. Initially the consumer surplus. Originally consumer surplus ಎಷ್ಟಿತ್ತು? ಹೊಸದಾಗಿ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ? Consumer surplus ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ? Initially the consumer surplus was somewhere this much. Initially your consumer surplus was this big triangle. Initially consumer surplus ಎಷ್ಟಿತ್ತು? ಇಷ್ಟಿತ್ತು. ಈಗ the consumer surplus is now reduced to this small triangle. Now the consumer surplus is actually reduced to the small triangle. So from the big triangle, if you minus the small triangle, from the big triangle, if you actually minus the small triangle, what you are left with? You are left with this region. E region ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ. So ಇದು P1CH. This is the loss of your consumer surplus. This is actually the loss of your consumer surplus. Because this much now the consumers cannot buy now. ಇಷ್ಟು ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮರ್ಸ್ ಈಗ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಯಾಕೆ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ? Because when the price increased, now the consumer surplus is reduced to only this much. ಬೆಲೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮರ್ ಸರ್ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಬರೀ ಇಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ. ಸೊ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮರ್ ಸರ್ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಯ್ತು? ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮರ್ ಸರ್ಪ್ಲಸ್ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗಿರೋದು ಈ rectangle ಅಷ್ಟು. So in the question if they ask what is the reduction in consumer surplus, that is P1CH. This quadrilateral is actually showing your new consumer surplus. A quadrilateral ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹೊಸ consumer surplus ನ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. Now producer surplus must have increased, right? Surplus ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿರಬೇಕು. So here the production basically increased, right? Production ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಯ್ತು. First the producer surplus was this thing. Now the producer surplus actually increased from that to this. Producer surplus first is ಏನು? I'll just change this thing. So here yadirli yellow irli. So here first the producer surplus was PAT. Now the producer surplus actually increased from PAT to this because of increase in the price of this thing. ಬೆಲೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿದ್ರಿಂದ ಏನಾಯ್ತು? ಇದು ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸರ್ ಸರ್ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ? ಇದು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಎಷ್ಟು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸರ್ ಸರ್ಪ್ಲಸ್? Producer surplus actually increased by this quadrilateral, that is P1PAB. P1PAB as to producer surplus ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿದೆ. Consumers, and that is why this is actually related to your supply curve. Supply curve ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ producer surplus ಇದೆ. Consumer surplus ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗಿದೆ? Consumer surplus ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗಿರೋದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಡಿಮಾಂಡ್ ಕರ್ವ್ ತೋರಿಸ್ತದೆ. This is the amount of consumer surplus which has actually reduced. So decrease in consumer surplus ಎಷ್ಟಾಯ್ತು? ಬೆಲೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡೋದ್ಮೇಲೆ. Decrease in producer surplus ಎಷ್ಟಾಯ್ತು? ಬೆಲೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡೋದ್ಮೇಲೆ. Hopefully now you people are able to identify. So Sachin, no issues now regarding this. Sachin was ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಲ್ಲ?
ಸರ್ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತು ಸರ್.
ಯಾರಿಗಾರು ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸರ್ ಸರ್ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮರ್ ಸರ್ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡೋದು ಹೇಗೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಆಸ್ಕ್ ಮಿ. If anyone did not understand how to identify producer surplus or consumer surplus, please ask me, because the questions will be targeted to this only. They will give you the diagram. They will ask which region is producer surplus, which is consumer surplus, which is revenue effect, which is protective effect, which is consumption effect, which is deadweight loss. Based on these only the questions will be. Idra melene questions kelodale diagram kotbiಟ್ಟು. So if this diagram comes, you should be knowing all these. You should be knowing to identify these things. So that is basically a thing. A diagram mela I have got some 8-10 MCQs also. That I will ask tomorrow. A diagram ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಅರ್ಧ ಗಂಟೆ explanation ಇದೆ. And don't worry, international economics will be finished. So that is basically a thing. Fine people, thank you very much. Take care, enjoy life. We'll meet again. फिर मिलेंगे चलते. Bye. So ಇನ್ನೇನಾದ್ರು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇದೆಯಾ ಅಲ್ಲಿ? ಚಾಟ್ ಗೀಟ್ ಏನೂ ಇಲ್ಲ. Yeah, fine people. Bye. Take care. We will continue this. Today I have made some 10 MCQs. We will discuss today's MCQ tomorrow. Fine. Bye people. Take care.